New store now open in Tala Retail Centre on the Bellegarde Road. deskelly.ie.
Staying mostly cloudy tonight with scattered outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Heavy bursts of rain, though, are likely in the southwest and west, with mist and hill fog as well. Mild with lowest temperatures of 8 to 10 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Well, hello there. So busy evening ahead. We've got Kenny Cunningham in studio as Liverpool Bayern Munich in the Champions League last 16 at Anfield takes up much of our attention. Team news on the way in just a moment. It is Matip and Fabinho in the centre of defence, though, I can tell you that right off the top. Stephanie Roach will join us on the football show to chat about life in Florence. Sean O'Brien has been speaking at Carton House this afternoon about his impending move to London. We'll play some of that. Plus, Conor O'Shea is going to take a phone call as well as Italy build up to the Ireland match on Sunday. 53106 is the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Kenny Cunningham, hello, welcome along, sir.
Yeah, evening, Joe. Good to be here.
Good to have you with us. It's a big one this evening, Kenny. It's a big one this evening.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Ooh, it's going to be good. Richie McCormack here as well, hello.
Well, Joe, you alright?
I am very well. So before we get into team news in just a moment, actually, sorry to pull the curtain back. Enda, can we fix the TV up there? Just come on in and do it, because there's something I want to show Kenny from last night. While you're doing that, Richie, give us team news from Anfield.
Yes, indeed, I will. The teams are in. Alisson starts in goal for Liverpool. They then got a back four of the returning Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joel Matip and Fabinho at centre-half. As you mentioned there, Joe and Andrew Robertson, as we would have expected, at left full. In midfield, the trio of Jorginho Wijnaldum, Jordan Henderson and Naby Keita. While up front, it is Sadio Mane, Mo Salah and the fit Roberto Firmino, who had, of course, been a doubt due to a virus picked up in training yesterday. The likes of James Milner, Xherdan Shaqiri and Daniel Sturridge on the bench for Liverpool tonight. For Bayern, Manuel Neuer starts in goal, overcoming any thoughts of skier's wrist. Joshua Kimmich, Mats Hummels, Nicolas Süle and David Alaba are in their back four. Javi Martinez and Thiago Alcantara are in the midfield. Former Arsenal man Serge Gnabry is in a trio in behind Robert Lewandowski, along with James Rodriguez and Kingsley Coman, and the pole leads the line for Bayern tonight, Joe.
Okay, so no Ribery, no Robin, Muller suspended as well. That's the Bayern team. They've been conceding goals of late. They conceded 2 at the weekend to Augsburg. Hertha Berlin scored 2 in them recently. Leverkusen scored 3 in them recently. Equally though, Liverpool at the back tonight. You're looking over there at Joel Matip and Fabinho, and you're saying best of luck, lads.
Yeah, that's it. If we had this conversation kind of a few weeks ago, and I think most people would have been agreed, if both teams could put their strongest 11 onto the pitch, you'd take Liverpool every day of the week. But the absence of Van Dijk this evening, that kind of untried partnership of Matip and Fabinho, I think that's really Bayern Munich's way in over the two legs. And I think really this is where they have to get it done tonight, Bayern Munich. I think this is their opportunity. I think they've got, if not actually win this game this evening, they've got to at the very least get it high score and draw. I think that's what they've got to get after. If they get that type of result, that puts them in the driving seat for the second leg. Normally, as an away team, particularly coming to Liverpool, a team as strong as Liverpool at the moment, you'd say, well, maybe 1 goal deficit, 1-0 we take. But I don't think that's going to be good enough for Munich. I think with the team Liverpool are putting onto the pitch, as strong as it is in other areas of the pitch, that little bit of a soft centre, I hope that's not being too disrespectful to Matip and Fabinho, but there's a real opportunity there for Munich this evening. They must recognise that and almost go for the juggler a little bit and take it a calculated risk this evening in terms of coming to Anfield and scoring goals.
As for Liverpool's approach, we haven't seen it as much this season as we have in previous years. I'm thinking of the Roma game, where they just come out with all-out intensity and almost blitz teams for 25-30 minutes. There's an intensity and a speed about their game. Is that the approach you'd like to see them take this evening, all-out attack, given Matip and Fabinho?
Yeah, but that generally should be the approach from any team, any kind of team. And as I remember, that was always a chat in the dressing room before the game, home or away, regardless of the opposition you're up against. Let's start fast, let's start quick, be bright, get on the front foot. Never remember having a conversation in the dressing room, right, lads, let's just drop off, let's take a step back, let's get to the edge of our box and let's look to contain the first 15-20 minutes. There's a difference, Joe, between let's start the front foot, get at them, go and press them high up the pitch, and leaving yourself open, but to actually go in a kind of disciplined manner, you know, and doing it in a sense where you're not leaving yourself overly susceptible to counter-attacks. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I think Liverpool's approach is generally the same most games, so I wouldn't expect anything different this evening, but it must be almost a subconscious thing. That partnership at the back, in terms of potential counter-attacks, some good pace in this Munich team. Coleman in particular, I'm a real fan of. He's absolute dynamite. And we're used to seeing players, good athletes, you know, real kind of pace, you know, young players in particular.
Yeah.
But this fella's absolutely lightning in and out possession of the football. So Liverpool have got to be careful. I know we're used to seeing those full-backs in advanced days, Robinson, Alexander, and we know that's where their strengths are. Just got to be a little bit careful this evening. At times, maybe one of them just drop in, keep in contact with his centre-half, because Fabinho or Matip can't be getting dragged out into wide areas and find themselves 1v1 against Coleman in particular, and even Gnabry has got decent pace as well.
Yeah, OK, we'll preview this game in a bit more depth around 7:30 or so. Kicks off at 8 o'clock. Kenny, later on in the football show, you're going to tell me about what happened at Stamford Bridge last night. I didn't get to see the game. I was at the National Concert Hall, Kenny. We had Brian Kerr, Graham Souness, Niall Quinn. In
the National Concert Hall?
Kevin Kilbane. We were in the Kevin Barry room. We were doing a panel. They're the Virgin Media panel, so we were there chatting to them. And at one stage, you'll like this, stick in your headphones.
What was your role there, Joe? What was your role there? Do you mind me asking? Just a facilitator?
As little as possible.
That'd be a first. That'd be a first for you.
As possible.
I'm in, Rich.
So we said to Brian Kerr, do you ever fancy getting back into management? And Graham Souness didn't quite understand what he was saying.
We would still have I'd still have a go for it. I miss. Do I need to explain that word?
Great.
Will I explain it to Graham? It's like Melogian.
I'm going to get that tonight, Melogian. Tell Graham what that means.
Well, you have a go for it. It means that. Remember the way someone said, will you have a drink or something inside? If I'd have wanted a drink, I could have said, jeez, I have a great girl for a drink now. It means I'd like one.
Desire.
I said, desire, that's the fancy word for it. Anyway.
Remember you're live on radio.
Brian Kerr in good form?
The worrying thing about that is, obviously, if those of you streaming at this online would have seen that just there. But does anybody still get a chill when they see Graham Souness taking off the vest?
I was waiting for the roll up the cuff things.
What are you seeing there, little man? It's still frightening.
He looked like a snooker player. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a queue there next to him, Graham, in his little waistcoat. He looked very dapper.
He did turn to me during the ad break and say, can we get some air in here? It's very hot. Get some air in here now for Graham Souness. The man has a presence.
His sinister tone, was it?
No, he wasn't. If anything, it's all the more sinister for the fact that you know what he's done in the past.
Yeah.
You know this man is tough as it gets. Teak tough, Kenny. And he's got this gentle, soft, lilting Edinburgh accent.
He's got a strong handshake, and I remember shaking his hand once some years ago, and woof. Yeah, the same type of thing. You think, oh yeah, wouldn't want to be receiving end of one of them.
Ever shaked hands with Keith Wood? That's the ultimate.
Oh, is that right?
Working back from a Keith Wood
He will break your hand just to prove he's happy to meet you.
The worst part is he'll absolutely squeeze the hand off you, and then he'll say, geez, you have a very weak handshake.
Have you ever come across a weak handshake in football, Kenny?
In football, yeah, nobody likes the old weak. I don't like the token gesture one, whether it's a weak handshake,
pre-game,
yeah, or anything, or even the one after, no kind of eye contact. Yeah, for me, it's. I'd rather stay away from it.
Did you give an old Gary Neville stare to Patrick Vieira type handshake? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, I would genuinely try and make eye contact. I wasn't one for going around the pitch. Not one of these like after a win. Easy. There's certain players after a good win, you've played well, they're desperate to get around and shake the hands of every opposition player. I was a little bit the opposite. If we'd won and we won well, I'd rather stay away. Almost felt as if rubbing people's nose in it. Yeah. I'd be more inclined if we'd lost the game maybe to go and maybe 1 or 2.
So I'd say, for instance, you really liked Thierry Henry sitting beside Richard Dunn after the handball. Solidarity.
That was an odd one. That was a very odd evening watching that from a distance. That was some strange emotions there, all right. Yeah, definitely. Maybe the Irish lads in particular, if you're coming to get up against anybody, I'd make a beeline for them. But I wouldn't make too big a deal of it.
You know, so I mean, look, the world is changing, and we've gone from that Keane Vieira era into the tunnel now, where players, especially if they know each other, very, very friendly. Yeah. You know, hugs, high fives, back slaps, and then go out and play against each other. The game is less physical. Maybe that's what allows them to do it. That must have been creeping in towards the end of your era.
Yeah, maybe there was a little bit of that. I think again it was it's an obvious thing to say, but the number of foreign players coming in, you get a lot of the South American players, in particular, very the Brazilian lads, how tight they are. It's almost like club team on tour, the national team. Yeah. So there's a little bit of that I noticed in terms of the South American players. So yeah, generally speaking, but not a huge amount of it. The kind of swapping jersey things that had started to creep in. That was like a total head wreck.
At half time.
Yeah, half time and even even after the game and stuff.
You're not a jersey swapper?
No, never a jersey swapper. Say not in club football, in international football, I did, but I never went looking for jerseys. If anybody asked me for my jersey, as opposed to my first couple of jerseys which I wanted to keep, if an opposition player asked me for a jersey, I felt it was a bit disrespectful if I didn't. So I would have given me jersey over, but never actively sought out somebody. And there was a couple of instances I remember, a couple of friendly games, and it's like going into extra time and maybe one or two of the lads positioned themselves on the pitch next to players, and when the whistle was going about 30 seconds, immediately they could make a beeline.
You're saying Kevin Kilbane turns around and says, "Oh, Messi, I guess we should swap."
Lionel, please.
I never mentioned Kev's now. I wouldn't bring Kevin into it, but yeah, I could understand it because they are very nice things to have. And
yeah.
Maybe.
What's your most prized opposition jersey? Do you
I don't. Like I said,
because you get to mark the strikers. You should have a nice collection.
Maybe so, yeah.
Are they framed or are they just kind of tucked away?
Nah, they're in a washing bag, laundrette bag up in the...
Kenny, I'll get you set up on eBay and we'll make a fortune. We'll pay for your holidays.
That's obviously that'd never happen. I mean, I opened maybe about a year ago. I was moving stuff around the house, had the attic, and I came across them, and obviously caps are thrown on top, so not literally thrown, but they're in a small plastic thing. So yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise actually, because I'd obviously not forgotten about them, but you open the zip up and the different colours, the jerseys, and
amazing. Well, I tell you what, you're more than welcome if they're rotting in your sports bag and you want to bring one here and hang it on display.
I can't ever envision me taking them out and displaying them, in all honesty. I don't like the idea.
Sorry, you don't live here. We'll put them here. You're surrounded by sports memorabilia.
Yeah, no, I do. Don't get me wrong. I'm very kind of proud of them. I wouldn't say I'm protective of them, because like I say, they're away in a bag somewhere. But
they're yours.
Sorry, are you not giving us one?
No, you're not going to get one.
Wow. That is so miserly. Yeah.
They're all, like in limbo. They're like in purgatory. Those jerseys that are in purgatory in my house.
Bring them over to hell. Bring them over to hell. Stick them right here. Well, look, we've got some good stuff. We've got Conor Murray's boots that he wore against New Zealand. We've an Andy Lee belt. This is the football Kevin Kilbane got for the O2 World Cup, the wooden football. Yeah, we've got a Kev jersey there.
Yeah, I know.
You not give us one miserly jersey, no?
Although you displayed once, there was it David Moyler? Yeah, and then it turned out later it wasn't quite what you... talked it out to be, was it?
No, there were the boots weren't, but the jersey there is the one he wore in Cardiff.
Oh, the jersey was the one.
That white one there, the 13.
It's bloody tiny as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they're great things. Don't get me wrong. Looking at them here, they're
right. Well then.
Yeah. No.
Wow. Okay, that's unbelievable.
So cold.
That is so miserly. It's unbelievable.
I can understand it, Joe. Don't get me wrong. And I've known lads have rooms kind of put aside for all their. And it does look, it's a lovely, a jersey and it does look
looks well,
really well, but yeah, just...
You like to keep them in your sports bag?
Yeah, me washing.
They're in a vacuum bag up in the attic.
That's great. That's good. So right, we'll move on. We'll talk more about the Liverpool game in a few minutes' time in a bit of depth. There is another game this evening, Barcelona.
Yeah, Lyon entertaining Barcelona. The teams for this one, Anthony Lopez starts in goal for Lyon. They then got a back four of Leo Dubois, Marcelo, Jason Denayer and Ferland Mendy. Tanguy and Ndombele and Houssem Aouar are in midfield. In front of them, Bertrand Traoré, Memphis Depay and Martin Terrier in behind Moussa Dembele. For Barca, Marc-Andre Ter Stegen starts in goal. A back four of Nelson Semedo, Gerard Piqué, Clement Longley and Jordi Alba. Sergio Busquets, Sergio Roberto and Ivan Rakitic are in midfield. And up front then, Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez and Ousmane Dembele. No Philippe Coutinho for Barca. Both of tonight's games kick off at 8 o'clock.
So Sean O'Brien doesn't plan on ending his Irish career?
No, he doesn't. He's hoping it can stretch beyond this year's World Cup. The Leinster back row is due to leave for London Irish after the tournament in Japan. And it was thought that O'Brien would join the list of players exiled from the Ireland squad due to a move abroad. But speaking today, the Tulla man wants to book that trend.
No, I haven't actually, because if I'm fit and well, and I think I can add value to this group even after I leave Leinster. I'd hope to be selected, but again, that's so long away, and it's probably a decision that the coaches and whoever is in charge at the time will have to make. But there's always hope there. I think that regardless of where you are, you're still in with a shout. You're playing well enough.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting case study.
Is there a policy there in terms of Irish players playing about? Really, they won't be considered.
Well, under Joe Schmidt, but we have to bear in mind that things are changing with Andy Farrell coming in after the World Cup. So that
there was an exception made for Johnny Sexton. It's an unwritten rule, but it's definitely a rule. So Simon Zebo, for instance, plays full-back. And it's a position that Ireland are even light in. And that's why Robbie Henshaw played against England. Right. They're trying to find a backup should Rob Kearney fail any kind of fitness test come World Cup time. And yet Simon Zebo is a ready-made replacement who's played under Schmidt.
Right.
And he's in
France. So is
this
coming from Schmidt or the actual
IRFU more so, IRFU more so.
With the agreement of... Have they come out publicly and said this? You're saying this is unwritten, this is...
It's an unwritten
That's all. That's weird, isn't it?
Dunic Ryman off to Racing as well when it was a time when we probably could have done some decent second rows. I was excluded from the Ireland squad.
On the list of incentives you have to keep the game strong here and keep your marquee players here, number one is they'll be well managed, so they won't play 40 games a year.
We're seeing the benefits of that,
And number two is a wink and a nod, your international career won't survive you departing. Now Johnny Sexton was such an exceptional player that's
the crunch though. But that you can't. I've no problem with that. I have a little bit of respect for it, but I think it falls apart once you start making an exception. Regardless, we understand the qualities Johnny Sexton has, but once you start making an exception for a player, regardless of how good he is, for me, that's where the argument starts falling apart. Once you start making exceptions for players here and there, that's for me becomes weak. Then
they've left
in terms of any kind of there's no principled stance. Then is there?
No, and that's the reason. That is the reason they haven't written the rule down. Is they don't they don't want it to be too rigid. I think there's a degree of flexibility which is helpful. It would the team can't really cope without the loss of Sexton at his best, Murray at his best. Tyke Furlong would be a huge loss. There's a couple of others. I understand. Look, it's not a principled stance in that respect. You're right. But if it was too rigid, then you'd be cutting your nose off to spite your face as well. It's
would you really get an extra if it was say, well, look, now we'll consider players from
I don't know. It's an interesting question. Certainly, the money would tempt a few others. And I'd say their worst nightmare is in a post-World Cup year that in the space of a couple of weeks, 4 or 5 might suddenly go, and that would really test the rule. But so far it's been hugely successful. And
then there's the indirectly ramifications for the national team then in terms of the amount of club football they'll be playing outside of the sphere of, in terms of not being managed then, their commitment in terms of club rugby.
For instance, Finn Russell is going to miss Scotland's game this weekend because ultimately he picked up a knock while playing for Racing at the weekend. And if he was back, some Irish players they go and play for provinces, but that was more to get game time on the legs. But the vast majority of the 34 that are in Carton House tonight didn't play a tap of the weekend.
Johnny Sexton's injury profile was not good when he was over in Paris. He suffered, and even in the middle of a Six Nations, he was flying back last week to go and play for Racing and then fly back in for Irish camp.
No, I can understand that all right,
It's an imperfect solution, but they're trying to navigate their ways.
I think generally they have done it really well in terms of how they're managing the players and in terms of getting peak performance like we have done. They're obviously doing a huge amount right.
Now, don't get me wrong, if Rob Kearney goes down injured in the World Cup and his replacement, say it's Robbie Henshaw, doesn't have a great game, then you will be hearing Simon Zebo discussed. You will be hearing the rule discussed. And the Sean O'Brien case will be interesting. O'Brien may be in trouble because we're fairly well stacked in that department. But it's a very attritional position and there's a lot of injuries a lot of the time. So who's to say he won't be drafted in at some stage?
Yeah, on a similar line to that, there are a few saying today they're delighted to have retained the services of what they call world-class Robbie Henshaw. The Leinster man has signed a contract extension which ties him to the province and indeed Ireland then, of course, until June of 2022. I
should remind you, this Thursday we are continuing our build-up to the Cheltenham Gold Cup. We have the latest Bulmer's Road to Gold event. We're going to be at the 22 nightclub in Dublin. We'll have Jarlath Regan there. We will have Brian Cooper and Kate Harrington. We'll have Vogue Williams. We'll have Ollie Bell and live music from Smash Hits. It's an exclusive off-air event. The only way to be there and enjoy it is to be there on the night. An over-18s event. And tonight we're giving you a chance to win a pair of tickets. All you have to do is tell us which county is jockey Brian Cooper from? Which county is Brian Cooper from? Text your name and answer to 53106. We'll announce the winner before the end of tonight's show. Where are we going next?
Ian Henderson is free to play in Ireland's Six Nations meeting with Italy on Sunday. The Ulster lock appeared via video conference before a Pro 14 disciplinary committee today after being cited for a challenge on Osprey's Sam Cross. The panel determined that Henderson's actions would only have warranted a yellow card, and so he has been cleared for that trip to Rome. Along with Tyg Byrne, Henderson returned to the Ireland squad today, while Byrne's Munster teammate Chris Farrell has been past fit despite concerns over a knee injury. And despite Kieran Marmion's return to fitness, his Connacht teammate Quaylen Blade continues to be favoured as cover at scrum half. Italy, meanwhile, they've been dealt a pretty serious blow with captain Sergio Parisse ruled out of Sunday's game due to a concussion. John Stones and Gabriel Jesus, they've been ruled out of Manchester City's Champions League trip to Schalke tomorrow night. Stones missed training today with a groin problem, while Jesus is suffering from a hamstring issue. Speaking in Gelsenkirchen this evening, Pep Guardiola blamed the club's workload for their continuing injury problems.
That's normal when you play the last more than 3 months, every 3 days a game. So we play 25 games in 3 months, so sooner or later we're going to finish the season. We're going to give them 3 weeks, no more than that, because if not, we're going to destroy the competitions. And we're going to come back. We're going to China to play in the big clubs in Europe, and they have to win, because if we don't win, the season will be a mess. And push them. And at the end, the legs of the players say, "Oh guys, it's enough. Need rest." That's happened. Maybe the FIFA is going to organize a new competition, a UEFA new competition, to these 3 weeks, like we have off. No problem.
They've the League Cup final against Chelsea this weekend, obviously, and then they're still very much in the hunt for FA Cup, Champions League and Premier League. How many trophies, Kenny Cunningham, will Manchester City end up winning?
I'd expect them to beat Chelsea.
That's one.
Yeah, I think they've got a great chance of the FA Cup as well.
Okay, we'll call that 2.
I'm going to go with those 2 that I've just mentioned, because I've leaned towards Liverpool for quite some time now in the league, so I'm going to stick with them.
Okay.
And Champions League, by the nature of the competition, I think they've got as good a chance as anybody, but 50. I'll go just for the 2 that I've mentioned.
Okay.
2 lesser cup competitions in most people's eyes.
Mauricio Sarri, speaking of the League Cup final, is under pressure. I noticed while I was reading, I didn't get to see the game, but that the Chelsea fans started singing F Sarri ball.
F Sarri, they weren't happy at all.
And joined in with the United fans who were singing "You'll be sacked in the morning."
You don't know what you're doing was another one that got an outing last night, pretty much after bringing on Davide Zappacosta in a like-for-like substitution as they're chasing a cup tie.
So the word is he's going to survive certainly Malmo on Thursday and then League Cup final.
Yeah, that's the word today. He says he's not worried about his future, despite the manner of his side's 2-0 FA Cup 5th round defeat to Manchester United last night. The host booed off the field at Stamford Bridge, with some supporters calling for the Italian to be sacked, following a 3rd loss in 5 games and a 5th loss in 10. Sarri, though, says he's only concerned about what's happening on the pitch and not in the stands. And as you say, Joe, it's believed Sarri will be in charge for Thursday's Europa League second leg with Malmo. That tie very much still in the balance. And Sunday's League Cup final with Manchester City. Talks, they say, have already started happening about his future at board level at Chelsea.
Kenny, we're tight for time. We'll talk more about that on the football show. I know you watched that game in a bit of detail last night.
I'll tell you what I will mention very quickly. Manchester United away support at the Bridge. Amazing.
Well, London's where all their supporters are.
Hey! No, I'm telling you what, phenomenal. The amount of noise they generated last night.
The thing about it is, FA Cup contingents, you do tend to get a bigger slice of the away.
You do. They had a hole, which you haven't seen before, the whole end down the bridge, as opposed to using that corner, aren't they? They actually extended it all the way across. I know they're winning the game, obviously they're in control, but even still, so vocal, the support. I mean, it always has been, isn't it? You speak to Manchester United supporters, they always say that kind of the core United support is the one that travels away week in, week out.
I do actually feel quite sorry for the cohort of Manchester United fans who are, have no part of the prawn sandwich corporate element, and yet their club has kind of just been transformed. It's amazing, and I know, look, this has happened at every club, the point I'm about to make.
That's where you make your money, though.
It was amazing. Paul Rouse was in the UCD Historian doing the paper review at the weekend, and he was living in Manchester whenever Peter Schmeichel made his debut, because he saw Schmeichel's first game, so I guess that's 91, 92 territory. And he was saying, I couldn't believe this, he was saying even then, you could walk up on the day to Old Trafford, get a ticket, £6. Obviously, prices have changed, but I just couldn't believe it wasn't even a sellout in the 90s when Ferguson was there and getting things moving.
Look
you
at
could walk up on the day.
Look at early 90s stuff. Any ground in the First Division Premier League.
Yeah.
You could get a ticket on the day. They weren't full.
I just thought Old Trafford and Man United might have had that pull. No. But he was saying, you could just wander up on the day. He's from Offaly. He said his friends might be over from Offaly and they might decide on Sunday morning or Saturday. Would you want to head to the game? Halcyon days, Kenny.
Right, yeah. Gone for good, perhaps, but yeah.
Right, where are we going next?
It's hoped Hammers O'Donoghue and David Clifford could return to the Kerry fold before the end of their league campaign. Speaking ahead of this week's Division 1 trip to Galway, Kingdom manager Peter Keen's put a 3-week time frame on potential returns for both forwards. However, Brian O'Bughley is unavailable for Sunday's game in Tuam after picking up a one-match suspension for his role in the skirmish that followed their win over Dublin in Tralee. Aaron Gillan will not be selected for Limerick's Alliance Hurling League clash with Cork. That's on Sunday. Treaty County manager John Kiley's confirmed Gillan will be rested as he's to play for Mary Immaculate against UCC in the Fitzgibbon Cup final that comes 24 hours before that league game. Paddy O'Loughlin will also miss the Division 1A clash at the Gaelic grounds as he's to line out for the opposite side for UCC.
What right has the IRFU not to pick Zebo because he's playing in France? Any other sport, you pick your strongest panel to win a World Cup, says Richie in Wicklow. It is a total injustice to somebody else, to all the players who are playing overseas. How can they make one rule for Sexton? It's a disgrace. And Paulie and Kerry. So Sean O'Brien could be picked for the Lions while not playing for Ireland. I suppose he could in theory, yeah. You can see their points. It's hard to argue in some respects. I'm sure Simon Zebo doesn't feel good about it. The IRFU, I suppose, would argue they're making some tough calls to protect the game in broader terms.
I think for some players, Joe, sorry I don't linger it, but an obvious thing would be they're going abroad. It's all about the finance. They can earn more money. For some players, it would be about their development. I'm sure as a player, go to a different country, a different environment, different coaching techniques. Maybe that might help them develop and even improve as a player. So actually, by going abroad and experiencing a different type of environment, they might argue, hold it, in 2-3 years, I'm going to be far more rounded, actually a better rugby player, which is going to be far more advantageous to the national team.
It happens all the time, and a case in point would be Tyke Byrne, who left Leinster, couldn't get a game. Looked like, in fact, I think he was pretty close to going to work in the bank.
Right.
Yeah, he was very close. And then the Scarlets in Wales came in for him late, and he took a chance and flourished. I mean, really flourished. And so what tends to happen there when they develop over 2 or 3 years is the IRFU go and say, right, come on home.
Come back.
And now he's back, he's at Munster, and he's in the Irish team.
Yeah.
So for the younger players, they don't have that dilemma because they don't tend to be in the Irish team anyway. But certainly when they develop overseas, they're also brought back.
Sure,
so it tends to work, yeah. And I think in O'Brien's case, one of the reasons he left, we'll play the audio later after 8 o'clock, is he wasn't offered a central contract, which is an IRFU contract. You get the best money, you're well looked after. So once he wasn't offered that, I think he was going to start looking far,
Maro Itoje has been ruled out of England's Six Nations meeting with Wales in Cardiff. The Saracens' lock has failed to shake off the knee injury that he picked up in the opening round victory over Ireland. England hope to have Itoje back for the March 9th visit of Italy to Twickenham. While France head coach Jacques Brunel insists his dropping of Camille Lopez and Morgan Parra is not punishment for their criticism of the coaching setup. Toulouse halfbacks Antoine Dupont and Romain Ntamack replaced the 92-cap duo for Saturday's Six Nations meeting with Scotland. Brunel describes the decision to drop Lopez and Parra as a sporting choice, saying their supposed words of criticism that followed the 44-8 loss to England are being taken out of context. Another Toulouse back in Thomas Roma will make his first start from fullback. Finn Russell, as you mentioned, will miss that game with France because of a head injury. The fly half sustained the knock while he was playing for Racing 92 against Toulouse, funnily enough, at the weekend.
Kenny, you like this? This is how the French are doing things at the moment. So Romain Ntamack is 19 years of age. Okay, so he started their first game against Wales. Went okay. Dropped the next day. Just cut on the bench.
On the bench.
He's on the bench against England. But I'd say he's 19. He's like,
what have I done wrong?
Great. Shucks. Is brought on at Twickenham. Doesn't know where he's playing. Doesn't know which position he's in.
That's a jump.
Yeah.
Joe, what are you basing that on?
There was a big argument on the pitch where they were all pointing and he was like shrugging, where am I meant to be? I've just been chucked on, where am I playing here? And now he's gone from being dropped and then chucked on and not know where he's playing to playing out half, where he doesn't play the vast majority of his rugby for Toulouse at the moment.
Right, out of position kind of thing.
I mean, he's played there, but he's playing a lot of his rugby at centre for Toulouse. So it's like, best of luck, kid, because you're going to be dropped the next game.
Did he come out verbally, though? Did he come out verbally in the press and insinuate that it was a bit of a shambles in terms of
he's
coaching?
He's 19.
No.
He didn't come out. All right, so he didn't publicly come out and criticise the management.
No one is really.
Parra and Lopez, and there's like a third choice, I can't remember his name, forgive me, a third choice back row came out and said, don't know what's going on. Clearly there's some direct
Why
more
does
direction
this,
needed.
this has always been the case with France, isn't it? I mean, why can't they? There's obviously hugely talented players there.
Told cultural reasons, Kenny.
But in terms of the coaching, you can't tell me there's a massive drop-off in the terms of quality of coaching in France.
Ooh la la.
No, but seriously, I know there's a little bit about, but surely there's some serious coaches and managers within the French club system and national.
Genuinely, it seems the standard is surprisingly poor, and it's just a cultural block in terms of getting the players.
It's something we mentioned as well in terms of the Ireland team. Look at how the players are managed. They'll only play like a couple of games in and around Six Nations period, whereas the French are going hammer and tongs in the top 14, and that's their bread and butter, and that's their priority. Because there's a lot of money paid for top 14 coverage over in France.
Right.
That too, but to your point, the coaching seems to be genuinely crap.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Because how many times you hear talking about the French team, there's no cohesion to what's the game plan here? Nobody knows what. That's unacceptable, really, isn't it?
Oh, it's madness.
You can have a game plan, you don't implement it to the best of your ability. That's one. But at least there's a clear picture in terms of what you're trying to do.
There's been at least 3 regimes where this has been the case as well.
Ronan O'Gara would say he was over at Racing 92 in Paris, and the sense he got from the players was they were like, they would love coaching. Like they want it.
Right.
They want the information, but it doesn't seem to be forthcoming.
But they never accept the foreign coach for the French national team. When was the last foreign coach and foreign
I don't think there's been one.
Team? Hasn't been one.
There are lots of foreign coaches at club level.
Yeah.
But none of them made the step up.
But that seems an obvious. That's where they got to break the mould a little bit.
Brian O'Driscoll said in here a few times, if they had any sense, they should just go to Joe Schmidt with a blank cheque and say, "We have the World Cup in 4 years. Name your price." And they have so much talent. That'd be a scary prospect then.
Big challenge, for somebody. He'd look at that as a massive challenge.
Would be, but I mean, I'd say he'd surmountable enough. They'd loads of talent. Just
he'd be banging his head against the wall with the setup over there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I think they're trying to wrestle back some of the control from the clubs. That's an issue as well. But I mean,
how do we end up talking so much about rugby?
You bloody love it.
You keep asking questions.
Joe always leads me down that avenue.
No, I don't. We're taking a break. We're previewing Liverpool Bayern Munich in depth, Kenny.
Right,
next.
Let's get on.
Off the ball on Newstalk.
The Moncrief Show is on the road again. Next stop, Cork. Movies and Booze will be coming to you live from the Riverlea Hotel in the heart of Cork City on Friday the 22nd of February. With its glamour